Welcome back, everyone. When it comes to cookbooks, The Joy of Cooking, well, it's a classic. First published in 1936, it has sold more than 18 million copies, and now there's a new edition for a new generation of cooks, thanks to the grandson of the woman who created it, John Becker, and his wife, Megan Scott, and they are here to tell us all about it. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay, so it was published in 1936, but she actually self-published her book in 31?
1931, yes.
That's right.
During the Great Depression, she was widowed. She was in her 50s. And
Irma Rombauer, that's who we're
Irma
talking about.
Rombauer, yes. Yeah. Sorry. Was widowed, and both of her children had moved out. So, she didn't really have any professional training, and for some reason, out of the blue, she decided, I think I'm going to self-publish a cookbook, and which was kind of a surprise to a lot of people that knew her, because she was not known. She was known as like a fabulous entertainer, but not necessarily like the master of the kitchen, mistress of the kitchen. So yeah, it was definitely kind of a shot in the dark, but it turned out to pay off. She hand sold the book to friends and family, as well as to bookstores. Like, hey, would you like to try to sell my book? And that's how it started, and luckily for all of us,
she really struck a nerve with her book.
Well, she really did. I mean, this is a classic, and it's it's been around for a very long time, and everybody knows about The Joy of Cooking. So that seems like a big undertaking to revise this. What made you decide to do that?
Well, I wasn't always. I was not destined to go into the family business. It was not something that I had been groomed for necessarily.
No pressure to going into food or any of that?
Yeah, I feel like if there had been pressure, I probably would have rebelled at some point and been like, no. But thankfully, I was given quite a wide berth at first. And so after exploring some other career paths, I really just felt like I needed to come back and continue the legacy. It means a lot, not only to our family, but it also means so much to many other families who have passed down this book as an heirloom. Just taking over the social media accounts alone, when we first started working for the family, it was just so incredibly clear that this was something that needed to be tended to be improved, to be continued, and to be celebrated again.
And Megan, you were so much a part of that as well. Food has always been a part of your life as well.
Yeah, I grew up, everyone in my family is a really great cook. So I learned to cook from like my mom and my grandmothers. And actually, we didn't have Joy of Cooking when I was growing up. Everyone in my family just cooks from index cards or from memory.
Sure.
But when I moved out of my parents' house, I knew that I had some gaps in my culinary education. So I actually bought Joy of Cooking for myself. It was the first cookbook I ever bought. So I used it for several years before I ever met John. And it's kind of how we met. A coworker of mine said, well, didn't you know that the guy whose family wrote The Joy of Cooking works at that coffee shop down the street? And I was like, no, I did not know that. So after my shift, I went down to the coffee shop and asked the barista, and it happened to be John. And he sort of blushed and said, yeah, that's my family. And so we hit it off, and that's how that all got started.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. I asked you guys off camera, have you tried most of these recipes? You said, yeah, every single one.
Absolutely.
And it took a very long time, right?
It did. Yeah, this is actually, this is the first edition since the 1970s where our family has been responsible for everything from, the researching to the revising to the recipe testing. We really wanted to take it back to how Irma and Marion updated and revised the first 7 editions of the book. It was really important for us to kind of, to make sure that these work in our home kitchen, so that we're kind of to keep it real.
So there are some recipes that just didn't make the cut this time around.
We had to make way. There's 600 new recipes in there, so we had to make some room. Some of the older stuff, like some of the gelatin salads. I love how everything's a salad. Some of those had to go. Other times there were some duplicates, so we would test recipes against each other and then pick the one that tasted the best. Mm-hmm. So lots of individual decisions had to be made about this.
Okay, so favorite recipes in the book?
Well, there's a whole list in the menus chapter of ones that are the author favorites, our favorites. But every time I look at that list, I'm like, I cannot believe that we didn't include this other recipe in the list. But right now, I want to say
the olive oil cake is fantastic. I make it all year round. It's great with any seasonal fruit. Another one we love to make this time of year when it's kind of colder is there's a kimchi tofu stew in the book now. That's a new recipe. It's so delicious. It's so hearty and a little bit spicy.
All
love
right,
that one.
it's good. Well, I flipped open a souffle, So there you go.
Yeah, souffles are great too.
Might have to try that. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And remember, the new edition of Joy of Cooking is on sale now on Amazon and at bookstores nationwide. Coming up, Pinots and Plaid when Bay Area Focus returns in a moment.